Okay. Thank you. I'd like us to the director should be excuse for a full shlema of Yaakov David Tzvi Ben Shoshana Miriam and all others that require Netanyahu Daniel Ben Netanyahu Ben Sarah. Okay. Where's hold on one second. Ben Sarah. Okay. All right. So today's Lag Bomer. So I can't help it. We got to talk about Lag Bomer a little bit. And I'm, Lag Bomer, when you talk about Lag Bomer, you think you're talking about who? EBGB, right? Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon is EBGB. But there's a lot that we can connect to, but it'll take a little bit of time till we get there, okay? So it'll sound TBGB, but it's really not. That's number one. Number two, I would like to share with you what the whole idea of these bonfires are. Everybody running to Miron if it was possible. If it was if the world was normal today, we would be running to. There would be many, many, many more people running to Miron. And in fact, most of the Gedolei Olam have said not to go. But the idea is, first of all, why do we go? And number two, why do we light these bonfires? What's the role of that? I mean, it doesn't say anywhere in the Gemara you have to write, or anywhere in Chazal, or anywhere. The Makar is probably going back to the Arizal, but we'll see. But let's begin this way. The Ramban says that the period of time of Sfiras HaOmer, that is between the Pesach and Shavuos, these 49 days should have been Chol HaMoed. It should have been like a Chol HaMoed. It should have been like Pesach was the first Moed, and the second Moed is Shavuos, and in between is Chol HaMoed, which means that while it isn't a Moed in and of itself, and Malacha can be done, however, it's also limited in Malacha, it's also limited in certain areas that we don't do, and that we should be doing. Yes, well, laundry is a different issue. But we'll see. You're right. It would be a long time. Okay, let's get on to the thing. So that's what the Ramban says. Chol HaMoed. However, because of the 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva who passed away during this first 32 days of the Omer, we do not have the Chol HaMoed. In fact, it's turned into mourning. We don't make chasanas, and we don't shave, and we don't have haircuts, and things like that. No music. Yeah, it's like, it's like the 3 weeks, but it's a long 3 weeks. So anyway, we have to understand what took place. So the Arizal said like this, that the 24,000 Talmidim who died had the same neshamos as the 24,000 who died in the Magefa of Baal Peor. There were 24,000 men who died in the Magefa of Baal Peor. Baal Peor was with the Benos Moab, and there was a terrible public of Zimri ben Salui, who was the Nasi of Shevet Shimon, and what he did publicly. And it took Pinchas to kill him in order to stop the plague. So this clearly indicates from this Arizal that the 24,000 of Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim and the 24,000 who died there, that these two Averos that took place must have some sort of a connection. And that's what we want to understand.
It's the same souls, they say?
Yeah, same souls. That's what the Arizal says. It's the same souls, the same people. It wasn't just the number. It was they themselves. Now, so we have to go back to the source. Back to the source of everything. The source of Klal Yisrael is Ma'amad Har Sinai. At Ma'amad Har Sinai, Klal Yisrael became Klal Yisrael. That's the source from which we come. And that not only is the source of which we come, but it was the point when HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed to all of the world, basically, but specifically to Klal Yisrael with the giving of the Torah and everything that is contained within the Torah. Now, there were two elements to the Torah. Two elements of the Torah. We know that there's Torah Shabbat and there's Torah Shabbat Peh. These are the two elements that make up the Torah. What does that mean? It means that the Torah Shabbat is that which is written down. It was written down by Moshe Rabbeinu, quoted and directed, and he was the secretary of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, and he wrote it down word for word as HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him to say. Chumash Dvarim is a little different because it's Eila Dvarim Asher Dibar Moshe. These were Moshe's words, and Hashem agreed that this is the way the Torah should be written. Fine. But then that Torah Shabbat, to be perfectly frank, is meaningless because we couldn't understand the word. We wouldn't know what to do. It's nice stories. We hear some nice stories in there, seemingly chas v'sholom, they're not stories. But would I know how to keep Shabbos from the way it's written in Torah Shabbat? Would I even know how to be mechabed av v'aim? It's very interesting. It says kibbud av v'aim. Yes, ish imo v'aviv tirou. We have to write. If you hit who? Mother? I'm sorry? Oh, you have to stand them up together and hit them? Hit both of them? Or kabedes avicha v'esimecha, what does that mean? Honor, father. So maybe it means or. Maka aviv imo, nos yumas, aviv ve'imo, maybe it means, and it does mean, right, mother or father, right? So maybe kaberes avicha v'esimecha means honor father or mother. I mean, hello, which one is it? There is no and or in Lashon HaKodesh. It's one letter. It's a vav. It's both vavs. Which way do we read the vav? Is it and or? How do you know? You can't be mechabed your parents without knowing Torah Shabbat Peh. Chazal tell us, kabed esavicha v'esimecha means mother and father. Makel avivimo mos yumos means mother or father. That's what it means. So, are you following me, or am I making sense? Are you with me? Okay. So we wouldn't know. So Torah Shabbat and Torah Shabbat Peh are intertwined. There's nothing you can do. There's no mitzvah. You can't even fulfill murder. Are you allowed to kill? No. Yeah, right? No, you're not allowed to kill. What about the self-defense? How would you know? What about an abortion? How do you know? You don't know. Who? How do we know? Where is it said? It's said in Torah Shabbat Peh. Okay? Let's make that clear. That one without the other, obviously Torah Shabbat Peh, if you had Torah Shabbat Peh, you could go on until you reach the moon. It doesn't mean that. It means it has to be tied to Torah Shabbat. Obviously it's connected. Okay. So we had at Sinai, that's what we got. Now, the way we received it was an absolute phenomenon, never again to happen. Klal Yisrael was standing at the foot of the mountain. HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself, and they absorbed it. It says, "Kol ha'am shomim es ha'royim es ha'kolos." They see the sounds. Well, how's that possible? That's not possible, at least not in our world today. For them, it was possible. Why? Because hearing and seeing are two separate senses. Hearing is sequential. You hear things one put it together, and you got a word, and you got a thought. Seeing, I see everything all at once. It's all there. Whatever is there is there. I see it. So it says, the way they saw the sounds was they absorbed the sounds like it was seen. Not the sequentially. Got it. Wouldn't that be amazing? Why? Why was it that way? Because it's like it was Nevuah, basically. HaKadosh Baruch Hu implanted these thoughts and ideas and understanding into Klal Yisrael. Good. there are these two senses of hearing and seeing, shmiya and re'iyah, seeing and hearing. So basically, they have a source. They have to have a source in Klal Yisrael. What I mean is this: Klal Yisrael is made up of 12 shvatim. Each shevet represented another kind of one of the kochos hanefesh of Klal Yisrael, and they implanted that into our DNA. That's who we are. They were our root. That's why we say "Lahavi Hamevi Goyel Livnei V'neihem." B'neihem are the Shvatim. Livnei B'neihem is Klal Yisrael. We are coming from not only the others, but we're coming also from the Shvatim. The two Shvatim that implanted within us the koach of Re'iyah and the koach of Shmiya were Reuven and Shimon. Reuven is Re'iyah, obviously. He saw. He was first anyway. And then Shimon was Shmiya. That we all know, right? We hear it. Instinctively, we know. So the one, if I were to ask you of all the Shvatim, which one gave us our ability to hear, not only physical ability, but the concept of hearing and seeing, you know it was Reuven and Shimon. We're going to pay a little bit of attention because right now we're talking about Lag Boimer. So the Iker is Torah Sheba'al Peh. And we have to focus on Shmiya. Now, Shimon was shall we say, the root, the grandfather of our understanding of how we receive Torah. Reuven was the way we understood and perceived Torah Shebiksav. How do you get Torah Shebiksav? Once it's written down, the only way you'll know it is if you see it. You gotta see it to absorb it, to know what it's trying to tell you. Torah Sheba'al Peh is Shmiya, hearing. Now, the Chumash says, Rashi brings, that Moshe Rabbeinu was upset with Shevet Shimon because of the chet of Benos Moav, which we just now mentioned before, the 24,000 who ended up dying. But he was upset. Why? Because the Nosi of Shevet Shimon, Zimri ben Solui, made a public demonstration against Moshe Rabbeinu. He said to him, am I allowed to take this Moabite woman? And if you tell me no, who told you that you could take Zipporah? Now, they were all gobsmacked. That's a word, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that. They were shocked. The whole Moshe Rabbeinu didn't respond. Why didn't he respond? Because this is Moshe Rabbeinu. He knew it all. No, it took Pinchas to remind him and to show him that you got to kill that guy. Yeah, Ramis Kanoim Pogimbo. That was the halacha. That's Torah. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu was upset with this Shimon guy, and therefore he didn't give him, when he gave the brachas to all the Shvatim, he didn't give a bracha to Shimon, not directly anyway. Says Rashi, in a sense, he did give him a bracha, where it says by Yehuda, it says Kol Yehuda, Shema Hashem as Kol Yehuda, ve'alamov Tavienu. Shema Hashem as Kol Yehuda. So included in the bracha to Yehuda was a hint that Shimon also gets some sort of a bracha. Okay? But basically, Shimon and his Shevet did something very, very bad. So we have Shimon, Shmiya, representing Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's clear, right? Rabbi Akiva, whose 24,000 Talmidim died, also represents Torah Sheba'al Peh. It says the Gemara, Stam Masnisim Rabbi Meir. All Mishnah that does not have a name to it. In other words, it doesn't say Rabbi Yehuda Omar, Rabbi Gamliel Omar. It just says the halacha. No, that's coming from Rabbi Meir. A stam Mishnah without a name is Rabbi Meir. That's not. What's the matter? Hold on. Gee. Why is it Rabbi Meir? That's what you want. Or how do we know it's Rabbi Meir? We know it's Rabbi Meir because the Gemara tells us it was Rabbi Meir. How do we know a Stam Safra is Rabbi Yehuda? Stam Sifri is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? And Stam Tosefta was Rabbi Nehemiah. That's what the Mishnah says. The Gemara says, V'kulam. That means the Mishnah, the Safra, the Sifri, the Tosefta, Akula, Aliba the Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Akiva. It all came from Rabbi Akiva. So our connection to Torah Shebaal Peh, Klal Yisrael, after the Churban, obviously after Nevuah and all of that, the way we connect to Torah Shebaal Peh comes from who? Rabbi Akiva. Kulam Aliba the Rabbi Akiva. This is an amazing thing because Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 students. And we said because the 24,000 students who died the first 32 days of the Omer became, yes, they lost their lives. They died because why? Says Chazal, the Gemara, Shelo noagu kavod zeh bazeh. They didn't show each other honor. Do you know who we're talking about? Do you know who we're talking about? Do you think Reb Leib Steinman and Reb Chaim Kanievsky didn't show cover to one another? These were Tanoim, Rabbi Shalom. These were Tanoim, and they didn't show cover. That doesn't. You can't digest that until you understand what's really going on, and that's about what we're going to say now. Rabbi Akiva's greatness lied in the fact that he had 24,000 students whose role was supposed to be to reveal the innermost, the depth of all of Torah Shebaal Peh. That was their job. Not just, what's there on the surface, but everything that's even under the surface. And they all died. Now, if you were Rabbi Akiva, what would you do? I'd give up. Put in 24,000 people. And none of them survived. All of my work, all of my giving over Torah. But no, Rabbi Akiva didn't give up. He went to 5 more. He started with 5. That was Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right, Nehemiah, and so on. All these 5, it all stems from them again. Now, Gemara says, I'll tell you this, that when Esav came to Yitzchak, he wanted to give him a bracha. He smelled Gan Eden coming from Esav. So what does that mean? He smelled the magnificent fragrance of Torah Shebaal Peh because Rabbi Akiva came from Gerim. He was a Ger. His father was a Ger. He came from Gerim. And that's what he smelled in Esav, that there was a spark. Torah Shebaal Peh, Rabbi Akiva. That's who he was. Now, so what did they do wrong? What really do you think they did wrong? It can't be that they didn't spit at each other. They didn't call each other names, and they're not children. What does it mean, Shalom Noagu Kavod Zeh? So the Gemara says that the inner understanding of Torah Shebaal Peh, the way Torah Shebaal Peh works is with the concept of chidush, something new. What does that mean, something new? It doesn't mean that something you came from your kishkis. It means something that came from the Torah that my Rebbe has taught me. I understand that that idea contains a lot more. There's so much more within it, and I negala it. That's called a chiddush. A chiddush is something that wasn't open on the surface, and now internally you have extracted from what your Rebbe said Chiddush. But what if somebody tells you a Chiddush and say, yeah, big deal. It's not such a big deal. I mean, it's not, it's something's wrong. And what that means is that you didn't appreciate that every single one of your friends, your chavrusas, those who were your equal, they were all equal. Even the top one, right, who heard a chidush from the lowest one, should have realized that he was his Rebbe. He learned something from him. So they were, each one of them were not just equals in chavrusas, but each one of them was a Rebbe for the other. And they didn't show the proper cover to the Rebbe. Clear? That was what they did wrong. There was a deficiency in kavod. They died during the Omer. They died during the first 32 days of the Omer. What's the gematria of kavod?
32.
32. That's why they died during the first 32 days of the Omer. They died because their kavod, the concept of kavod, was lacking. Zimri ben Salu, when he came to Moshe Rabbeinu and he said, "Can I take this woman?" And he said, with the chutzpah, if that's the case, if you say no, don't tell me no. Don't tell me no, because if you do tell me no, who told you can have Zipporah? What was missing? Kavod. Kavod. The Torah was the culmination of Yetzias Mitzrayim. We got the Torah 49 days. And what we were doing was counting. What does that mean, counting? Counting what? Counting days? They didn't count Sphira like that. They didn't. The mitzvah of Sphira only starts of counting the Omer is after they came into Eretz Yisrael. So what would they do? What's going on those 49 days? Why is it so important? Because when you count something, you're going towards a goal, a process. The process, counting, helps you get to your goal. Now, normally when you count to a goal, how do you count? Backwards. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, right? They go down because the goal is there. But if the goal isn't there, if your counting is to achieve the goal, there is no goal yet. Until you get there, that's Shavuos. So we count up, and each day, the reason we count is because that's how we get to Shavuos. They got to Shavuos by each day they absorbed something new, Chiddush, some greater achievement, some higher level, some level that reached them ultimately to the point that they all became Nevi'im and they heard Hashem speak to them. That was what was taking place there. Again, Kavod Torah. Kavod. When you count something, it's valuable to you. By the way, what does the word yakar mean? Dear, expensive. Well, what's expensive? Something that's valuable. Ein habe, and it's valuable. There's value in it. Yakar, kavod, it's the same word. And why? Why is it the same word? Because there's the kavod is in the value of something. The more valuable, the more kavod. You give kavod when you recognize the value. You act differently. You speak. Even that silly thing like a diamond. Okay, your behavior with a very precious diamond is different than with a rhinestone. Okay, you deal with it differently because why? Because if they're both stones, one has more value, one is more yakar, and therefore it's more expensive. Like the yakar. So the yakar is expensive, but no, it's more than just expensive. It's the reason it's expensive is because it's valuable. because it has value. Who has the highest value of anything in this universe? Of course, it's Hashem. And therefore, we say in the davening every single day in the brachas of Kriya Shema, Tov Yotzar Kovod Lishmo. He gave cover. He created the world for the world to have covered, because when you recognize the inner power and the inner meaning and the inner value of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, each and every moment you get connected to eternity. That's what he wanted. That we should recognize what's going on the inside. And it's very interesting. The outer stuff, that's just a game. You don't give cover to somebody who's dressed up like face, I don't know, Kohen Gadol. It's the Kohen Gadol who's wearing the garments. It's not the garments. It's interesting that Shlomo Melech said, Kol kvoda bas melech penima. Look at that. The covered. We don't say the tznius, that you have to be tzanua. It says, Kol kvoda shal bas melech is penima. Internal. That's really where you matter. Called Kvuda Bas Melech Pnima. It's inside. And that's covered. That's what we have to know. And that's Torah Shabbat Peh. What's inside the concept, what is deeply embedded within it that you can extract from it through Torah Shabbat Peh. So far. And that's why it says, Kol Masha Bora, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'olamo Lo Bora Elo Lichvodo. So the true covet is always internal. Now, that's what the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva made a mistake. Big mistake. And so did Zimri, made a terrible mistake. He thought he was talking and learning. He thought he was talking and learning. He thought he was talking in Torah Shabbat Peh. Hello, where's that saying in Torah Shabbat Peh that you can marry this one and I can't? That's a part of the pshat. You got to figure it out. What's the difference? The difference is he got it from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you, where are you coming from? You can't make up your own Torah Shabbat Peh. There's another relationship of covet. Covet is the pasuk says, "Va'aretz ha'ira michvoidai." The world was enlightened through his covet. Well, that's seemingly a bit of a problem, because light is what is revealed, not what's hidden. We just said the total covet is what's revealed, what is internal and not visible. And here we're saying, well, his covet enlightened the world. So what we have to know that it's not that way at all. If one is truly goes deep into what he sees on the surface, he can understand that there's something deeper behind it. The light of enlightenment. The light doesn't necessarily have to shine totally on everything. The light is on the external, of course. But when it says, Toiv Yotzar Kovod Lishmo, Ma'oros Nosan Sviva. He created the luminaries. So why? Look at what you can see. And from what you can see, you have to determine there's something deeper inside, internally. And that's the whole concept of kavod and yokar and so on. Now, that was the big mistake of Rabbi Akiva's Talmud. And that's why we have a mourning period in the Sfira. The mourning period is not because they died. There are a lot of people who have died in Klal Yisrael. Many more than 24,000. We don't make, we try to make a remembrance, whatever it may be. But don't tell me we don't have a mourning period. It's not that we don't shave and don't make chasanas and so on in those days. So what's going on here? Why are we talking about mourning because 24,000 people died? We're not saying mourning because they died. We're mourning because of what they didn't bring into the world. That's not mourning. We lost it. If every one of us would have been, imagine every one of us sitting here would be a makubal. Oh, we're all mekubalim. That's what they were revealing. That's what what the base medrash of Rabbi Akiva was supposed to reveal. That which is not seen, that which is deeper, that which is more expensive, that which is more valuable. The base medrash of Rabbi Akiva were involved with the deepest roots of Torah Shebaal Peh, and yet there was a lack of kavod. Now, all this took place during the first 32 days of the Omer because the gematria of kavod is 30. And that's what was lacking. There were only two people that revealed something that was so fundamental to Klal Yisrael's essence. One was Pinchas, when he was the one that revealed that you kanayim pogimbo, this was an affront to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not only to Moshe Rabbeinu, but to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And number two, there was one other person that revealed this, and that was one of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, and his name was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, on the day he died, what did he reveal? The innermost value of what is contained within the Torah. And how interesting it is. What did he write? The Zohar. What does Zohar mean? Light. What's the or? The or is light. The light of the inner essence of what Torah Shebaal Peh is all about. These two people, both of them, it says that Rabbi Akiva, who was the source of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to give the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, he showed him all of the Doros, and he looked and he saw Rabbi Akiva, and he said, "What are you giving me the Torah? I don't understand what a word he's saying. I don't understand what he's saying." What does that mean? He didn't understand. What he means is he knew the Torah, but what was coming out of that Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu taught. So that's what was missing. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu didn't. It wasn't that he didn't understand Rabbi Akiva. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, everything that comes from Rabbi Akiva has come from you. So all the Talmidim, Shimon Bar Yochai, Reb Shimon, what he was revealing was something that really came from the Torah about Peh Moshe Rabbeinu. And Pinchas did the same thing. He revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu that included into what he taught was that you have to kill this guy. That was the power of the Chidush, and that was the power of Torah Shebaal Peh. And perhaps, on Lag Bomer, when the Zohar was revealed, which was the day that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai left this world. So normally it's not a very happy time, but he left Tzavah saying, no, it should be a Yom Hilula. It should be a day of Simcha. Why? Because I'm going to reveal what the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva was supposed to reveal in much greater amount. I'm going to give Klal Yisrael a glimpse of that. And that glimpse of the inner Torah, that glimpse of the Pnimius HaTorah, that glimpse that we have through the Zohar and through other Sifrei Kabbalah, but that's all based on the Zohar. That's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai did. And when we come to Lag Bomer, what we should be overwhelmed with is a recognition of the light that it is shedding for us, that we can, and it shows us that how far we can go and what we can achieve. And that, I believe, is the reason that we have bonfires on Lag Bomer, the light. I mean, it's not this light, right? Doesn't mean that. In those days, they didn't have this kind of light. Where'd their light come from? From fire. Their light came from the fire. And what this was, and by the way, what was there at Maimon Sinai? Also fire. The words came through the fire. Fire is light, and it doesn't mean light to make so I can see better. It means enlightenment so that I know and understand deeper and better. This is what Lag BaOmer is all about. Now, it's wonderful that people go around and they dance and they sing, and Rabbi Akiva, Omar Rabbi Akiva, Omar Rabbi Akiva, and it's true. It's all coming from Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Shimon played an enormous role. But no matter what, let me just add this little politics in it, no matter what, Pikuach Nefesh is docha even Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. If it's Pikuach Nefesh, your life is in danger, Chas v'shon, you're Mechal Shabbos, when somebody's life is in danger. So you can't not go to Rabbi Shimon one Lag BaOmer. Have a little sense. What are you doing? Do you know what a Kiddush Hashem it would be if nobody showed up? You think Reb Shimon would be upset? If anything, Reb Shimon would be jumping for joy because you understood the essence of what I was trying to teach you.
Yeah, approximately half the people who don't care have to go to the school.
I don't know. It doesn't. I'm not taking it that far. I'm only taking it. Whatever they did, and whatever reason they did, but their reasoning is distorted. That's all I'm saying. It's a distortion. And we have to recognize that. We have to know that we have to follow is what has been revealed to us. That's what we have to follow. Now, that what was revealed to us, we know with the depth of our heart and yearning that there's so much more included in it. Yes, that's true. But at the right time and in the right place. And that's what Rabbi Akiva did. He had 24,000 Talmidim. I mean, you can't even imagine that. I mentioned the budget of that yeshiva. I don't know how they ever made that, but 24,000. They all died. And there were 24,000 Jews that died because of the Magefa of Baal Peor that was started by the Shevet Shimon. And Shevet Shimon, were the ones that were the instigators of this whole problem. And they were the ones who were supposed to be the essence of Torah Shebaal Peh because their name was Shimon. They were supposed to have that, and that's what they were embedding into Klal Yisrael, and they forgot what their role was. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to give them a bracha openly. Do we see, what it does is open up a little bit. This is not just and it's wonderful. I know people that gain more from going to Shimon Bar Yochai on Lag BaOmer than they do on Yom Kippur. I know such people. They've admitted it to me. And it's an amazing thing. But know why. Understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Rabbi Akiva began with 24,000 and he didn't give up. He started all over again with 5. And take a look what those 5 have produced. 5. It can be done. We don't realize how powerful our efforts are. Certainly in Talmud Torah, and certainly in our Kiddush Hashem, and certainly in all the things that are necessary in order to bring about the ultimate goal of the true Torah that will be revealed. Once again, everything that the 24,000 Talmidim were supposed to reveal will be revealed when Mashiach. That's called Torah Shel Mashiach. That's what is he going to make? A new Torah, a New Testament, Chas v'sholem. What's he going to do? He's going to take the Torah and he's going to open it up for all our eyes to see. And we'll see it with an enlightenment of in Lashon HaKodesh, the Gemara, it's not Lashon HaKodesh so much, it's Lashon Aramis, but a person, Rachmana litzlan, who's blind. You know what they would call him? A Sagi Nohor, meaning he has too much light. Too much light blinds you too. You're blinded out with you have too much light. Sagi Nohar, he has too much light. Isn't that a beautiful way of putting it? He has too much light, and therefore he can't. That's the way it's going to be, unfortunately, for people who don't accept the truth of Torah Shebaal Peh and the truth of Maimon Har Sinai and all of that. All these people, Nebuch, these poor neshamas, the Yiddish neshamas, they are all Sagi Nohar. They have too much light, and when Mashiach comes, they'll be blinded. And I don't mean physically; they won't be able to absorb it. The Chofetz Chaim says when the brothers came to Yosef and he revealed himself and he said, "Ani Yosef." Lo yuchlu la'amod lefonov. They couldn't answer him. They couldn't say anything. They were dumbstruck, shocked. Now, who was shocked? Who was shocked? These were the Shiftei Korah. These were the 12 Shvatim. Not 12, 10. These were the 10 Shvatim. And they were dumbstruck. They couldn't talk because of the shock. Because he said, Ani Yosef, 2 words. They realized they were so blown away that everything that they thought they were doing right was totally reversed. Right? Now imagine, says the Chofetz Chaim, when Mashiach comes in and he points out and he says, Hashem is saying, Ani Hashem. How are we going to be? Are we going to be prepared for that? And we can be prepared for that. Just like Reb Shimon said when he authored the Zohar, that's given us a little glimpse into what's going on in the essence of Torah and what's going on in Hashem's world. That's why we have the simcha of Lag BaOmer. That's what makes us happy. That's when you're joyous. And we sing songs, and we dance, and we light fires because of the light. And we recognize it's the Or HaTorah. Torah Or. Torah Or. May we all merit that when in Yirtzeh Hashem, Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Mehera B'Yameinu will come, and he will enlighten us with the Torah Shel Mashiach, that we too, we all, no matter what level we start out from, will all be able to absorb it, just like Maimon Har Sinai when they absorbed it, and they saw the words. B'Mehera B'Yameinu.
Thank you, Yeshua.
Baruch to you. You should all have a wonderful, wonderful Lag BaOmer.